guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm finally wrapping up December 2022. I know, we're in a totally different year, but I need to get this done, tell you what I thought about the last things I read in the year, and then I can throw out all of my end of the year, beginning of the year content. So let's just dive straight in. The first thing I read was Farmhand Volume 1 by Rob Guillory. Rob Guillory is the artist of Chew, which, as you guys know if you've been here, is one of my favourite graphic novel series ever. And this is his, but he's also the writer in this. And it's just as weird and fun and good as Chew in a different way. You can tell it's Rob Guillory, and you can tell he clearly has a lot in common in the thought process as John Layman, who wrote Chew. But yeah, this is a series about this dude, and he farms human bits. So it's about this family, and the son and his wife and his kids are going back to the farm. His dad is the one that has this weird thing going on, and yeah, it's just like engineering all these human parts, and then there's like weird stuff going on, and it's weird and creepy, but also cool in a good way. Here's the artwork. As you can see here, look, farming, bits and weird things going on. I'm not sure how long this series is going to be, but I think there's 3 out so far, so definitely looking forward to carrying it on. Yeah, it's just really good. I enjoy the artwork, of course. It's the same art as Chew, and it's just really weird. And I like weird when it comes to comics, so yes, perfect. The next thing I read was another graphic novel, and that is Blue is the Warmest Colour by Joel Morrow. This is a contemporary. It's about a girl and another girl and them getting together, and it's told like showing you what happened in the past and then the now, and then I cried at the end, and it was really good. And then the artwork's really nice because it has this palette like black and white, but any blue is in blue because blue is the warmest colour and it's the most important bit. And yeah, I thought it really added to the storytelling. And yeah, it was very good, and now I shall at some point watch the film because I wanted to read this first before I watched the film, so I had the story on lock. But yeah, very good. After that I read Scott Pilgrim Volume 4, Gets It Together. Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together by Brian Lee O'Malley. This one, it's been a while since I've read a Scott Pilgrim book. I normally just like grab them when I find them for a couple of quid on Amazon Marketplace or on eBay or something, because I enjoy the series, but I'm not spending like 8 quid on something this small and this easy to read. But yes, it's been a while, but I dive straight back in. This one is a lot more like the dynamic of the group. So if you don't know, somehow it was massive as a film as well. Scott Pilgrim, he has a girlfriend and then he has to fight all of her evil exes, and it's just really silly. And then there's this friend group, he's in a band. And yeah, most of this is more about the group. It feels like Scott's like grown up a little bit. There's the least amount of evil ex in this one, but we still get to see an evil ex, but they're not as prominent in the storyline in this volume. But it does promise that in the next one there's going to be 2 evil exes, so 2 for the price of 1. I'm sure there'll be a lot more in the next one. But yeah, it was fun. And this is the artwork in Scott Pilgrim. Next up, I read Sleepover Takeover by Simon James Green. As you know, if you've been here, Simon James Green is one of my favourite authors. He's just a fun time. This is one of his middle grade books, and the easiest way for me to explain what this is, it's think of the film The Hangover, but make it middle grade, and that is pretty much exactly what this is. There's a party, they all wake up in the morning and all this crazy stuff has gone on and none of them can remember why, and there's just like shenanigans going on. And it's this group of 4 of them trying to figure out what was going on and like backtracking, and like why is one of them in a wedding dress? Why is there a random animal? Where has that come from? Like all that sort of fun stuff. It was really fun. I just enjoy Simon James Green in general. He's a great writer. There's also artwork throughout as well, so let's pick up a bigger one. So here we go, for example, there's some artwork throughout here. Obviously most of it's just words and stuff, but there is pictures as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters. It was like our main character, he has one friend and everybody else is like cool and popular, but then in the book he's with these cool and popular people and realizes that hey, maybe they're just normal people and like friends and stuff, friendliness things happen. And yeah, it was a very fun time. I very much enjoyed it. We're about halfway through, so let's head on over to a message from one of the spawns, and then I shall be back with the rest of the books. So next up I read Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. This is a fantasy book and it's a standalone. The ending is very much open for there to be a sequel, but there's none in the works or in the plans. It's put out as a standalone. And I really enjoyed that because it's not very often that fantasy books are put out as standalones. Like when I was reading this, I thought any other author could have made this into 2 books or 3 books just to like make a trilogy. But I quite like the fact that it was just in 1 book, contained story, all the stuff happens and all the things we need are there. But yeah, this was cool. It's about this one character, Rags, who is a thief, and the people in power have got him to go in this. It's described as like a heist, but that's really not the main part of the story. Like he does have to go and find this thing, like this treasure, but then after the treasure is found, then most of the story happens after that. So it's magical, there's fae, there's a bunch of different characters going on. The magic system's really cool. It's all about these like shards, and they can be used in different ways. Like they can be put in people to be all powerful. They can be used like mirrors, so you can see through the mirror and you can see what's happening and keep an eye on people. It was a fun time. I enjoyed it, and like I said, I just appreciate the fact that a standalone fantasy exists. So if you want a fantasy but you don't want to like jump into a series, there you go. After that I read Fence Volume 5, which obviously was just a fun, great time. This is a slice of life comic series about fencing, and realistically not much happens. They're just at this fencing place and they have to do fencing, but it's just about the characters, and the artwork is just so pretty to look at, and it's just really good. So this is the artwork we have in here. This series is very much slow burn. Like we get to know all the characters, but there's definitely stuff brewing, and it stopped for a couple of years, but now it's back, so hopefully it's back for good, and they'll be pumping out loads more content because I need it. Because it's just so easy but fun and enjoyable to read. Like this takes no time at all. It's literally a group of people fencing, but it's just so good at the same time. How? This is how. After that I read Bitter Blue by Kristen Cashaw. This is the 3rd book in the Graceling Realm 5-book series, I want to say. I think there's 5 now. And I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was one of my few 5 stars this year. You guys know if you've been here that I'm very picky about giving out 5 stars. Like at the end of the year I'll be like, here's the 9 books out of 150 that I rated not 5 stars. Like that's how picky I am. But I just really enjoyed the way this was written and what it was putting its focus on. So this series, you could technically read them without reading the other books in the series. Like characters do come from the 1st and the 2nd book, but it's not really that linear, so you could just jump in. But this is definitely my favourite book out of the 3 so far. It talks a lot about trauma and it's very insular. A lot of this happens either in the castle with Bitter Blue or in the surrounding town with Bitter Blue as well. Bitter Blue is the queen, and her father, who used to be king, was like a proper bastard, evil. He had a power, so Graceling, there's people with graces, and they can have, it can be something like being really good at cooking to being like the best assassin in the world. Like it goes from one extreme to the other, and his grace was being able to manipulate people into believing anything he said, and he was like horrific with it. And there's even a forward in here where it's a little bit from her childhood when she was like 8 or 9 or something, or maybe even younger than that, and it's just about him like abusing her mum and his advisor, and then just saying to them like, oh no, nothing's happened, and then she's crying and she's sad, but he says like, oh, nothing's happening, why are you crying? And then like all the foggy memory happens and like, oh, nothing's happening, so why am I sad? And it's like really harrowing to read, and I loved that. That might sound weird, but I feel like in fantasy series trauma is not discussed enough that it would be. Like, think of any fantasy series ever. There's a bunch of characters, probably there's something evil or there's something nasty, and like loads of bad stuff's happening, people probably die in it, and then no character really ever shows any sort of after symptoms of them not being okay. And I feel like it should be discussed more in fantasy series, and that's why I loved this book so much, because it is all about this trauma. And even after the king, who was evil, has died, he died like however many years ago, there's still that after effect, there's still memories that people haven't got back. They still know that stuff was foggy and they don't know what happened exactly. And there's like, throughout this book, it's about trying to get memories back, but there's also like these really cool ciphers and stuff like that, and like secrets and stuff and politics. And I just really enjoyed the book, as you can probably tell. So yes, I'm very glad that I finally got to this. And it was my second to last book on my 2022 TBR, and don't worry, I did read the last one, so I finished it. After that I read the Backstages, Volume 1, what's it called? Rebels Without Applause, by several people. This was just a really fun time. It's about this crew who works backstage at the theatre at the school, and then like magic stuff happens. There's a door and you go through the door and it goes to weird worlds and stuff's happening, and it's just wacky and weird and wonderful. And it was a really fun time, and the artwork's really pretty as well. So here's the art in here. We follow these group of characters who are all the backstagers that work in the backstage area, and then this new kid has come and he's part of it. And then yeah, just weird stuff ensues, and I like weird, as I have already mentioned in this video. And then last but not least, the last book I read in 2022 and the last book on my 2022 TBR was Vengeful by V. Schwab. This is the sequel and last book in the duology of Vicious. Vicious is the first one, Vengeful's the next one. And it had been a couple of years since I read Vicious, so when I started this I was like, am I gonna remember? But then luckily I did. Mostly what I needed to remember, I remembered, which is good. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book as well. It's about these, well, just in normal human life, if you have a near-death experience and then come back to life again, maybe you also have a power. And maybe it's like some really cool powers, like being able to hurt people, or being able to not get hurt yourself, or being able to do all these crazy stuff. I'm not going to say other stuff because that's like spoilers for the new characters, but there's some really cool powers in here of the characters that you've not met yet. So that was just great to read, and the interactions with all the characters I really enjoyed, and just how like morally grey everyone is. It's like, this is the good guy, but are they really the good guy? But because they're also doing bad shit, and this is the bad guy, but he also thinks in his head that he's doing the good stuff, but like everybody's murdering loads of people. And it was really good. So yeah, I very much enjoyed it, and that was the last thing I read in 2022. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books that I've mentioned, or what was your last book that you read in 2022. I would love to know. Comment it down below. That rhymed by accident. But yeah, subscribe if you want, like if you want, watch other videos if you want. I will be back very shortly with all of my like stuff, stats, stuff, videos, things, stuff, good stuff. So be here for that, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.